Because of COVID, I was able to get a 2.25 rate. But to be fair, I did have a 3.8 before that.
Welcome to the Freedom Real Estate Podcast with your boy Andrew, and I am excited to have Eric Katsikas on the pod tonight. And he's going to go a little bit about his story and how he went from rags to riches, as we say, when you 64 million in transactions this year. So for listeners tuning in, give us a quick overview. Who are you? Where are you from? And what does your day-to-day look like today?
So I'm Eric Katsikas, or Katsikas. People always struggle with that one.
5 syllables. Five syllables.
So I'm a mortgage broker. I got into lending back in 2020 around COVID. I got into real estate when I was 25, and that kind of pushed me to doing lending later. I was always interested in doing this, but I was scared to give up my 9 to 5. Except my 9 to 5 was 6 to 6. It was 12 hours a day, 12 and a half. So I worked for the nuclear power plant in Seabrook.
Okay.
Did that for 14 years. Did night shift, upwards of 65 hours a week. It was really great. It was a great job. Had great benefits. It took care of my family. Stable, but it wasn't like there was no upside.
So when I hear that story, you know what I think about? I think about Homer Simpson.
Yeah.
Working his plant day in and day out, just seeing the sun up, sun go down. It's literally like Groundhog Day. Was that a little bit what it was like? Or?
It really wasn't. And can you put a glow on me? Like,
Okay.
It's probably naturally still there. I was there for 14 years. So yeah, I mean, it really was Groundhog's Day. It really was. And that's the thing is, like, I've always been an ambitious person, and I had to push that down.
Sure.
Because I've got a guaranteed check, great benefits. We had our kids on our medical plan. It was completely free, zero out of pocket. And 4 weeks of vacation a year. Like, we had 144 hours plus 72 hours of paid time off. So we had like 210 a year. So union benefits and all that stuff. So it was a great job. It was stable. But like, there's no growth there. You're just going to make, like, when I was 21 years old, I started there and I was making 60 grand in 2007 and great money. And then, but over time, great money turned into okay money. And then it just turned into, I could honestly get another job it used to be a really good paying job, and it just leveled out over time.
So growing up, what made you decide that you wanted to be a W-2 worker? You didn't think you had what it take to be an entrepreneur, or were you kind of conditioned into going into the W-2 track? Like, what was your whole family life that led you down that path to now you're an entrepreneur today?
Yeah, well, my dad died when I was 12.
Oh, man. Okay.
Very deep.
Okay.
Yeah, he got cancer, liver cancer. It started as pancreatic, and I didn't know how serious that was. I didn't know how, like, he told me, and I still remember, like, it was terrifying. He told me he was going to be fine. He's like, telling me on the phone, and so I didn't even get to see him that much when he was dying. He only lived for like 8 weeks from the time we found him out. And it was really weird. I didn't know how quick it was going to happen. And dude, I still remember, like, his foot going black, like, from, like, on his way out. And I even remember them, like, bringing in one of those, like, basically giant trash bags into the hospital, like, 'cause he died, and they're going in to take his corpse out. And so I didn't get to say bye. I missed it when he passed. And so it was really tough. And so my mom, when he died, my mom had to go get a full-time job, and she just got minimum wage. She was a stay-at-home mom her whole life. And so she had to get a minimum wage job. We lived in a studio apartment together, the 3 of us. So I was sleeping on the floor of a studio. I was always going to be poor. I was always going to be a renter. That's what I assumed. So when I got a good paying job, I was like, I guess I can't give this up, even though I wanted more.
So more or less, you ran to safety, more or less, yeah. Right? Yeah. You didn't have safety growing up, and that's kind of why you ran towards that career track.
Correct.
And you were there for 14 years.
Yeah, it was like a heroin drip.
And then let me ask you this: what made you open your mind to the fact that route is actually not safety, and having control of your own destiny, your own income is a lot safer than what people think today?
Well, originally it was just supposed to be a stepping stone. I wanted to be, I wasn't sure what to do. I knew without having gone to college,
Mm.
I didn't want to take on all this debt. I got the grades to go to college, took the SATs, but I didn't want to take on all that debt because I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Mm.
I was always so jealous of people who knew what they were going to do and that they were going to make this amount of money and they could kind of plan that. I was just like, I don't know. So I became a carpenter at 18, and my uncles were in real estate.
Okay.
One of my uncles is solely like a lot like you, a lot fewer units, but I think he's got like 50. But he's a great local real estate guy.
Mm-hmm.
He mentored me on my first building. I went to all of his different buildings. He showed me and he talked to me about different things. And so I got my first property at 25. I read like the Rich Dad Poor Dad, the
Okay.
Millionaire Real Estate Investor.
And
Great book.
this is in what year?
That would have been my first buy was 2012, but we started planning for it when I was 18.
So this was 5 years into your W-2 track. You're working
Yeah,
at the nuclear plant,
yeah,
Groundhog Day.
yeah,
You were kind of planning your escape,
yeah,
and you closed on your first property.
hmm
Took you 5 years to dig that hole out of the prison,
yeah, yeah,
and you finally closed on your first, what, multi?
yeah, 4 unit. Yeah.
Okay, and what did that look like?
It was actually an off-market deal. This was really great, and this really shows the value of real estate investors. One of the reasons I love working with investor realtors is I dealt with a bunch of just retail realtors, and they were just like, "Yeah, tell me if you like a house." I was like, what am I paying you guys for? Like,
Mm-hmm.
don't you help me find something?" They
Yeah, yeah.
set me up on an auto thing, but like you guys are like, "Hey, we found this off-market property, or we found this deal on market, and we think it's we think it's actually underpriced, or it's sitting, and we think we can make a low offer." And so what happened was one of my realtors knew of an off-market property
Okay,
and that we were able to secure it. They were on market, weren't able to get the numbers they
sure.
wanted.
And it was a 4 unit, right?
4 unit, yeah.
Which little known fact, 4 units are actually extremely rare. In my market alone, I think only 6% of residential multis are 4 unit properties. So
Yeah.
they're very, very rare.
Yeah.
Very desirable.
Yeah.
Right?
It was, yeah.
And your lender, why are they so desirable?
I mean, because the more you can put under one roof, the more you can consolidate. First off, like though I always try to tell people, so I have 5 bedrooms in my building, a
Mm-hmm.
2 bedroom and 3 1 bedrooms.
Yep.
Now, if you did that as a duplex and you had one 2 bedroom
Oh
unit
yeah.
and one 3 bedroom unit, you would get nowhere near the rent that
Numbers
you
wouldn't
get.
make sense.
Correct. It wouldn't be
Yeah.
profitable.
And due to the fact that you can buy something like that with as little as 0, 3.5, 5% down with
Yeah.
different loan products out there, right? So you
Yeah.
get that's the most money, the most units you can get into with the least amount of money,
Yeah.
right? So what you get it for, what you put into it, what's the revenue look like, what's your cash flow look like?
Yeah, it's been amazing for us. So we bought it for 342.5 with 12,500 in closing costs
Okay, nice.
coverage. So 330 net or 352.5,
Yep.
340 net to the seller.
Mm-hmm.
And mostly sweat equity. Like I got into being a carpenter at 18 so I could do some of the stuff, and I just went around the house, did like trim, it was just cosmetic. They'd gutted it. It's an 1800s property. They'd gutted it and done a
Okay.
bunch of good stuff.
Okay.
So I had to upgrade the panels. They were 60 amp. I probably put 30 grand into it.
Okay.
But it was really pretty easy. A lot of it was just they had cheap carpet, cheap appliances. I swapped things out with stuff people in Exeter wanted to have.
Okay.
They're having trouble getting tenants because they went cheap on everything,
Mm-hmm.
and so no one wanted to live in those in that nice town, right? So I just brought it up to the town standard. Right?
So was it you said 370? Was that what you said? 370?
352.5.
352.5, and you put 30 grand into it, so you're all in 370, 380 or something.
Yeah.
And what's the rent on it today, and what do you owe on it today? I mean, what's it worth today?
I just got an appraisal on it. I think it came in low at like 780, but I really think it
So,
should have been
okay.
like 825. 4 units in Exeter. Bosco did an analysis. He thinks I should probably get 200 a door at minimum
Okay.
in Exeter, but it's fine. There's just no comparables. It's like you said, there's so few in Exeter.
Mhm.
They have to go to like neighboring towns, and
Yep.
so there's just a lack of comparables, right? But the cash flow is amazing. So and I'm terrible about this as a landlord. I haven't been raising my rents enough.
Yep.
So it's I know like some people will be like, yeah, he's being good to his tenants, but I'm also not
So
running a good business.
So this is one of the biggest mistakes I hear from investors with fewer units is they treat it more like a hobby and less like a business. Like ultimately, I'm a kind person. I like to think of myself as a kind person. But if you're trying to be kind to your business, you have to treat everything in a uniform manner. And you can't take one off sort of exceptions because something pulls on your emotional string.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. And a lot of times when that happens, it ends up biting you in the butt.
And it's biting me. It's biting me right now. Like, I have one tenant. So you're exactly right. I owner occupied it for so long. I was living there for 9 years because
Mm-hmm.
back then we didn't have 5% down conventional. Once I got my 3.5% FHA, I could either wait until I have 25% equity to do a refi to a conventional,
Yep.
so I could do another FHA,
Totally.
or just wait until I have enough cash to put 25% down. And
Sure.
I didn't have 100 grand for a $400,000 next property. You know what I mean? So, so for a while, so people have way more benefit than I had available to me. Now you can go 5% down conventional for units, right?
Yeah. So I think Eric's referring to the house hack,
Yeah.
which, Artem used time and time and time again. He's probably on his like sixth or seventh. I've used it 4 or 5 times. I'm going to close my house hack, I think this week or maybe next week. Another one, a duplex in Worcester. But it's such a powerful way to accumulate units. You can buy units with an owner-occupied loan with 3.5, 5% down with FHA products, conventional products, and you could keep doing that every 6 months, year, right?
Yeah.
And it's such an easy way to build a portfolio. And let me ask you this, Eric. You're an investor-focused lender. Like, out of all of the 64 million in loans you closed this year, how many of those were house hacks?
A good chunk.
Exactly.
A good chunk.
Because it's such an effective strategy
Yeah.
to build a portfolio.
I had 127 purchase units last year. I
Yep.
did very few refis. It's pretty much just
Mm-hmm.
when someone calls me and just goes, "Hey, I need some help here," I'll take care of it. But most of my business is purchase. So 127 units. I don't know how many of them were house hacker investors. I also have
Yeah, like an estimate.
probably 30, 35.
30, 35% are there's just this one strategy.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, because it's a powerful strategy. And
Yeah.
and you were lucky or unlucky. You were lucky in the fact that you bought in 2012.
Yeah.
You were unlucky in the fact that you didn't have the ability to utilize the products that we have today, right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. So 2012, you bought this house hack. Sounds like a fantastic investment. So obviously after that, you accumulated hundreds of doors, right? Like what happened from 2012 to, well, I guess when you became you got into the real estate industry to where you are today.
Yep. So there were some positives. Like because of COVID, I was able to get a 2.25 rate. But to be fair, I did have a 3.8 before that. So it's not like pre-COVID, I still had a great interest rate.
So we're fast forwarding 8 years ahead.
Yeah, well, that was the next. Well, I had to get to equity.
Okay.
It was going to be a long time. It was either scrape and save like a hundred grand
Sure.
to go buy something for 400, or I didn't know your strategies and syndications, and I didn't know a lot of the things I know now from going to the Candor events and your events. So I wasn't aware of all these different strategies I could have
Okay.
employed.
So, but from 2012, I guess to 2020, you became a lender, and then
Yeah.
you started buying more. So let me ask you this: what gave you the epiphany to move from the W-2 mindset to the entrepreneurial mindset?
Well, it was the 4 unit. When it started
Okay.
making enough money that I was out of the rat race essentially, I was making enough rent to cover both my mortgages.
Wow.
And so I was able to be and both my car payments.
Mm-hmm.
So once that property was cash flowing enough, so my mortgage was 2,750 and my rent rolls around 6,300. It really could be like 68. That's what I was talking about earlier. Is I really could maximize it around 6,800 on that. And so my two mortgages were combined for about 4 grand, two car payments 1,200. So I was getting both my mortgages and both my car payments, and I had no credit card debt, and I was getting an extra $1,000. So I'm like, I can afford to take a risk because I got two kids and a stay-at-home wife. My wife's never worked since we had a kid, so I have to be able to provide for them, and commission's tough. So I got into part-time lending. And it got to a certain point where I just had so much business that I was making enough money, like part time, I was outperforming my W-2. So that was when I was able to go entrepreneur.
Why lending?
Yeah. So the reason I got into lending was actually because I was unimpressed by my lender.
Okay.
I kind of had this, if he can do it, anyone can do it. I really
Yeah.
had that feeling because he screwed up a deal of mine. I had a reno loan ready, and we were under contract for It was a foreclosure property in Epping. It was 4 bed, 2 bath with a full finished basement, 2 acres, for 142.5, which was crazy. And it was a foreclosure property. They let us do a renovation loan on it, and we were all the way like a week before close, and he denies my loan. And he goes, I messed it up. Like I got your income wrong or something. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I have perfect credit. I'm cash flowing on my rental.
Could you get like a cosigner at that point?
I probably could have, but the bank wouldn't give us any time. With the foreclosures, they were just like, all right, we're not giving you any extensions. And they went
Sure.
to a cash buyer. They went to a cash buyer who gave them like 110.
Wow.
And so that person then sold the property for like 350 later.
Wow.
And they only had to put a new kitchen and a driveway. I think the total budget was, oh, and a new chimney. A new entire chimney was going to be like 25 grand. So I think it was 60 grand all in. So they were into it for 170 and they sold it for like 350, 375 later. Now it's probably worth 500.
Wow.
So I felt like I lost 200 grand because my loan officer messed up. And the reason I say that is because the guy who hired me and brought me into the business was the guy who was doing my refinances, Paul Godbout, great friend, still great friends. Talked to him today. He was like, I could have done that loan. I would have closed you. I was like, you sure? He did. Like 6 weeks later, I went under contract on the house that I own now, and that was 240. So I
Yeah.
bought successfully a house for 240 when this other guy couldn't get me closed on a 140 with a 50K reno.
Yeah.
So Paul's like, yeah, I would have closed on that loan. You would have had your house. So I felt like that loan officer lost me $200,000.
So it took two things to really make you take the leap. First of all, it took you 8 years of building up that safety net where you felt comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
right? It also took you 8 years of realizing that maybe there's something to this real estate thing when you started seeing it start push out cash flow and money to you to start covering your expenses. And then I guess lastly, the most important epiphany was the fact that you saw other people in this industry that just weren't carrying their weight, that you thought you could do a better job,
Yeah,
right?
for sure. Yeah, I really knew that like and one of the things was I started going around to other lenders and asking them questions, and I felt like I was more prepared than them because I deep dive all the guidelines. I'm like heavy into research, so I would go start a conversation with a loan officer, and I would feel like I was asking him questions he didn't know the answers to that I did. And I was like, so I just felt like there were a lot of people who are just good at sales and not actually good at the job. And so they can convince you to sign up and get a mortgage to them, but they don't actually know anything deep down, and they just push it off to their processing team and just hope something sticks, throw money at the wall. And so I really pride myself on, if I tell you you can get a house, you're getting that house. Unless you lose your job or you like open up a bunch of new debts or something. If I pre-approved you, you're getting the house, you're closing, right?
So Eric, you got into lending in a very unconventional period, 2020, right?
Yeah.
During a very rocky period on the upward trend, but also the downward trend. And simultaneously, your business has grown year over year over year.
Mm-hmm.
So, what have you done to make your business grow consistently in these economically turbulent times?
Well, becoming a broker allowed me to control my margin.
Okay.
So a lot of retail banks, you don't realize that like you could have a great loan officer, but if he
Mm-hmm.
works for a company and they have all these massive overheads, corporate locations,
Yep.
branch managers, regional managers, so
Mm-hmm.
regional guy recruits, and then the branch manager gets money. They're all making money off the top.
Okay.
Then the company wants to make money off the
Sure.
top. When I
A
became
little mini pyramid scheme.
Yeah, it really is. So this guy's getting 25 bips and this guy's getting 150 bips.
Wait, where's my 50 bips? I didn't get paid too in the mix.
Correct. Yeah, everybody has their hand out. And when everybody has their hand out, that thing gets pretty heavy. Like so I'm like, why am I losing deals? Like I had one July that I had $7 million in transactions, and I'm only 3 years in the business at this time, only 1 year full time. I've got $7 million of transactions in my pipeline. I only closed 2 million because people started shopping me out, and I'm like, why? I go to my boss, why are we losing? How am I losing these deals? Oh, they don't really get those rates, or they're lying, they're just whatever. And so I eventually found brokering because the funny thing was we brokered a loan when we were losing a deal.
Sure.
They go, hey, we're going to broker to Provident Funding because we can get better rates there. And I was like, if I can get
So,
better,
so educate our audience a little bit, right? Like you're a broker, right? You're originally probably working for an in-house lender, right?
Yep.
So, like, what's the difference? What's the pros and the cons to working with a broker versus working with potential a quote unquote lender, right?
Yep. Well, on the commercial side, it's not as good because you're just kind of like extra fat on the bone, I would say, because you're just like introducing someone to a bank. But on the residential side, I eliminate a department from their bank, and so I have to be better, cheaper, faster, is what I would say. I have to eliminate their entire origination department.
But you're like more or less just a middleman. You facilitate
Yeah.
loans between lenders and borrowers,
Yep.
right?
Yep. So they have their underwriting department, but instead of having originators who would work the sales floor or whatever, they only have to pay for a loan when I bring them an under contract client. And so they absolve themselves of risk and they just have to pay for loans that come to the closing table. So I absorb all of the risk of finding clients and all the cost of acquisition where the bank doesn't have to deal with that anymore. I just bring them clients. And if I don't bring them clients, they don't pay for it, right? So, and then I have 150 different banks. When I was at my bank, if our prices were off, I was out of work. Like I just
Okay.
couldn't close deals.
Yeah.
But then I can just go next door and go, but they got great prices. So today they're bad, but they're great over there.
So you worked for a bank. When did you decide to say screw this? I'm gonna go on my own.
That was literally like we sent that one deal to Provident, and they were like, "Yeah, if we're losing, we'll send it to them." And I'm like, "Well, why don't I just do that all the time? Like,
Yeah.
if they're better, now they get less margin on it, so they're making less money on that deal. They don't want us to broker because it is better for the client, but it's worse for them.
Hmm.
So they want to make more money. So I realized if I could cut out all the extra people getting paid, that my clients get better rates, and we retain more money from it too. Now, so I basically run my own business, right, under the umbrella of Edge Home Finance. You know what I mean?
And you came from the perspective of, rather than my client pay more for this loan, I can become a broker and get him a better deal.
Correct. Yeah. Yep. So, and I can control my margins, which allows me to run more of a lean ship. I call myself a jet ski, and they're cruise ships. So
Okay.
we're gonna just jet like crash around them, right? So we just run circles around them, and they're gonna absorb a ton of people who don't shop around. There's gonna be a ton of people that just go, "Ah, my realtor said to use them. I'm just gonna use them," and the rate is the rate.
Wait,
They'll
so let me get this straight. Your main goal is to save people money, and you somehow built a business consistently over the last 5 years?
yeah.
Oh my God, that's so surprising.
Yeah, that's where growth comes
Right.
from. So it turns out I basically made a model where I have to work extra hard and make less per deal, but through volume we make better.
Quantity over quality is your strategy. And I can
Right.
assure you, I've done, I don't know, like 5 loans with you this year
Yeah.
myself, right?
Yeah.
And you're quick, you get it done. Bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah. I just don't think it's that hard. I think I think like if you know the underwriting back end of it, then it doesn't have to be so difficult. I think a lot of loan officers just don't know what they're doing. I like if when we're talking about low, there's a lot of really good.
Yeah, and
I don't mean to talk that much trash,
well,
but
and I want to say
like
some good things about Eric and the fact that he honestly, just from a human level, just wants to help you. On many occasions, I called you and you told me, I'm not the right solution for you because of A, B, and C, but I know who is. Like, for instance, like I don't have a W-2, I'm a 1099. It's very hard for me to get a primary loan a primary loan, right?
yeah,
But Eric recommended me. He's like, why don't you go to one of these commercial lenders we have a lot of loans with and see if they'll like potentially give you a portfolio loan, have a loan in house for a primary residence. That's exactly what I did, and I ended up finding a 5% down conventional loan through that portfolio lender when I
yeah.
normally would not have access to that type of loan because of the amazing advice you gave me, where you made no money, but you honestly just wanted to help me.
Yeah, correct. I do lend with I do lead with caring. Like I
Hmm.
genuinely want the best for people. I have home equity lines. I tell people all the time, don't use me unless you have to use me because I can get ones done that a credit union can't do.
Yeah.
But if you can get one from a credit union, you're gonna get a way better rate. Our home equity products just aren't great. Um,
Okay. So you found real estate because you got that 4 unit, and then you decided, oh, I'm gonna actually go into real estate full time for my job in the form of being a lender and then a broker, and then you're like, oh crap, I've been forgetting about investing for over a decade. Maybe it's time to lean back into that. So when did you get back into investing, and what's your portfolio look like today?
Yeah, well, there was this guy that wouldn't stop harassing me. I was going to real estate events, and he was badgering me, bullying me.
Oh, this guy sounds like a very
Yeah.
handsome person, if
Yeah,
I might
he's
say.
a very beautiful man with a nice
Yes,
beard.
yes,
A
I
very a
hear,
great beard.
I hear
His name's
that.
Andrew Freed.
Oh,
You're like, what are you doing with your equity?
hey.
I'm like, it's sitting there. It's having a good time. It's enjoying itself. It's on vacation. So I eventually, so I didn't. Again, this a lot of this goes to people are really lucky right now. They have a lot of access to options. I
Totally.
didn't have. So I have a home equity second on non-occupant investment properties up to 4 units.
Okay.
I think I asked you a few times. I'm like, do you have a lender that has a product like this? Well, now I do, and I used it on myself. So I was able to go up to 70 loan to value on my 4 unit
Okay.
non-occupant.
Perfect.
So I was able to keep my 2.25 first lien,
Mm-hmm.
2.25 FHA loan, and then I have a second lien for like 8%. And I borrowed like a couple 100,000. I bought two short-term rentals.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I have two properties in Hampton Beach. I just closed on one last month, and another one I close on this week actually.
Yeah, and I think you're getting that because first of all, I think you bought in with some equity,
Yeah,
right? Which is
yeah,
obviously smart by right? But you're also utilizing, I believe, what's referred to as the short-term rental loophole, right?
yeah.
Where you can actually utilize cost segregation studies to write off 100% of the property's depreciation in the first year, or sorry, some of the depreciation in the first year, and use that to offset your income,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So I was getting bullied by Uncle Sam and
Yes.
Andrew Freed. So just getting it from every direction. So so Uncle Sam wanted his cut, and then but like you had told me about the short term loophole, and I was already listening to your advice. And when I finally was able to buy with equity, I got like 30 grand of equity day one on that first purchase. Yeah, it just made a lot of sense.
Well, the thing about me bullying and Uncle Sam is I bully, but I don't take your lunch money.
He actually does take my lunch money. He
God
actually
damn it.
does.
God damn it.
Yeah. So yeah. So it was. I'm really excited. I'm nervous about it because it's a new endeavor. I've only done long term, so it's my
Hmm.
first short terms. I do want to get some more long term rental properties. We'll see where we go with that. Yeah.
Nice.
So we'll talk about that. And the thing is, like, I'm very lucky, but I'm not unique. Like anyone who knows you knows Zach, knows Andrew Bosco, knows all these people. You guys aren't hiding your off market deals. You guys present them, and so there are just a ton of times where I go, oh, I want that house. Oh, those numbers make a lot of sense. I'd love to buy that. So if I have access to capital, I'm gonna try to jump on one of those in the future. You know.
Yeah, and what I will say is the better deals come with more hair, right? Like I'll tell you what, this house that I got under contract, I got a duplex in Worcester, 370, probably needs 75K worth of work. It's worth 600K all day, right?
Hmm.
People were like, "Oh, why don't I get access to that deal?" Because it came with a freaking crackhead. It came with an eviction. It came with all these violations, right?
Yeah.
I can happily solve those problems,
Yeah.
but I'm only going to do that if it pays me,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of people are too scared to actually take on those problems, or those
Hmm.
problem children, as I put.
Yeah, there's I think that's one of the biggest mistakes I see in new investors. They go, I want everything pristine. I want like new construction, like everything to be perfect. It's like, well, then you're not going to have any equity. You're
Exactly.
going to go in there. You're going to pay full
It's a
price.
spectrum.
Yeah.
It's a
So yeah,
spectrum. Yeah,
yeah,
bullshit to equity. You know, how
yeah.
much bullshit are you willing to take on? That's
Correct.
directly correlated to how much equity you're going to walk
Yeah.
into.
And there's a place for those investors. Like
Yeah.
there's some people who just make a ton of W-2 money and they're just like, I want to take an L. Like sometimes people want to acquire some real estate that's
Hmm.
turnkey, doesn't require anything, and they're going to lose some money on the cash flow and they're going to write it off on their taxes. It's a good tax break for them, whatever. So there's some places for that, but people like us who are trying to actually turn a dollar when we buy something, we need to walk in with equity.
Absolutely.
I didn't like being like I think other people suck. Like there's I
I
love
mean, just be
quality.
honest.
I love quality loan officers. There's a bunch of them. I'm really good friends with a lot of loan officers. But I do think there's like a lot of people who just get in this to try to make a quick buck, and they're just salespeople.
So on that note, actually, one thing I wanted to ask you, you've done quite a few loans. I mean, we've done at this point 3 loans. The only thing I'm actually annoyed by is I didn't get to know you earlier in my real estate career. You would have been all of them actually. Why are you an investor focused loan officer, and why are there so few out there? Because most people I feel like are, at least in my world, struggling to find a good one. You're like one of the few. But if you just Google, loans or loan officers, there's a dime a dozen.
I think there's just a lot of nuance to the task. Like there's so much going on. When I'm dealing with like Andrew's loans or your loans and stuff, if I'm doing DSCRs, non-QM is supposed to be easier. It's really
Mm-hmm.
they kind of dumb it down. They're like, hey man, all we need is subject property has to make some money, just any amount of money. So
Mm-hmm.
1-to-1 ratio, meaning $1 of rent for every dollar of mortgage. Well, that's easy. Okay, I can do that. And then you need to have enough cash for the down payment and closing costs. And down payment for 4 units is only 20 for an investment loan,
Mm-hmm.
instead of 25 on the conventional. And then reserves. So does the property make any money or at least break even? And we have sub ones, but we'll get into that if we want to. But do you have enough money for down payment and closing costs? And is your credit any good? So
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't have to worry about my job, my liabilities, my mortgage payments on my other properties, my cash flow for any of these other properties, just the subject property.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have enough money and do you have enough credit? Sounds wicked easy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you get into the nuance. And that's where that's where a good loan officer separates themselves. Because, like, I have properties where someone's listing a property, they're doing a flip, and every flipper should always have a plan B. Every flipper should always have
Mm-hmm.
a hold position available to them, right?
Yeah.
So if you can't sell it for what you want and you know it's worth that money, then you just ride it out. Throw
Mm-hmm.
a tenant in there, cash flow it out, refinance out of the hard money, put it into permanent financing, and then put it back on the market in a year or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, whenever you think that that's the right time to sell.
Yeah.
So you should always have a hold position. Well, if you listed that property for sale and you didn't sell it, banks are going to look and they're going to see it was listed. So if you go, hey, I've got an appraiser saying this house is worth $700,000, but you just listed it for, like, you did a price reduction to 600,000 or 650 or something. The bank's going, if you didn't sell it at 600, we're not going to give you 700 value.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nuance there. So there's a lot of things you can do. There's they could bring it back to the original list price. So they could bring the price back up to where they originally planned on selling it. And
Mm-hmm.
then if the appraisal supports that value, then you get to use it. So knowing that is really important, because if you don't know that, you can get bit at the end. There's just so much nuance. What I used to tell people, one of the reasons to get into DSCRs is because you're constantly dealing with buying properties. What's one thing that you deal with someone selling a property they've had for 10 years? What's probably the first thing that you're thinking that you're going to have to solve?
Either low rents or it's going to need a lot of work.
Low rents. You nailed it right out the gate, right? Or deferred maintenance for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about a DSCR is they used to go, hey, you're buying this property to turn it into a cash flow property. This is
Mm-hmm.
a business purpose loan for you. You're not a person going to buy there and live there. It's a DSCR. It's just strictly investment. So we're going to give you credit for market rents. Because
Mm-hmm.
so when the appraiser goes out there and says, hey, had this property been vacant today, I would give you this much rent. That's how much they used to give you. I
Mm-hmm.
still have banks that do that. But knowing the different investors that have that rule still is
Mm-hmm.
very important. Because if you have a tenant that's been in there for 10 years and they're paying $1,000 and market rent's $2,000, that's going to affect your cash flow analysis, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's just so many, and the changes come fast. Like banks tighten up, they start pulling back their rules, they're changing. So you have to really be on top of all the investor stuff that changes all the
Mm-hmm.
time.
But that just makes me question, why isn't there more investor focused loan officers? Because you start to see like there's starting to become more investor focused agents. Because my thinking is if you are an investor, you're probably going to buy more than one place.
Mhm.
So if you get into a good relationship or you get into a good community where there's a pool of investors, you're going to have business after business with the same people. Why wouldn't you go after that instead of the mom and pop or the family that might buy a house once every 20 years?
Because you guys are sharks.
What
I have to swim with sharks every day. I have to try not to get bit by all the sharks I'm swimming with. And what I mean
are
by
some of the dangers? What's the problem?
I have to work for less. Like I do. You have to make a decision to be willing to work for less. Like you've seen my broker fee. It's like I know what I'm allowed to charge. I know what my competitors charge.
Mm-hmm.
And if I tried to charge that, you guys would just shop me out to another bank and you'd go somewhere else. A lot of retail buyers will just go with the recommendation they get, and so
Mm-hmm.
you build a lot of these relationships, and the client just goes, "Oh, Susie said to use Joe, so I'm going to go with Joe," or whatever, whoever the person is. And
You have
so,
no idea how much it broke my heart when I had to go with John Dart instead of with you when we were like at the last minute. I honestly, I would rather go with you even though it cost me a little bit more. And you told me like, no, I'll go with that because it's less money. Like, oh.
That drives me crazy because I do genuinely appreciate that because so what happened was sometimes someone has a better product than me and I'll be the first person to say
Hmm.
go with them. I don't want you to use your loyalty just because like I give you advice and I go hey do this or I help structure that.
But
I
that's
just want
exactly what earns that loyalty in the
yeah.
first place.
But I also don't want you to pay an extra $200 a month if like my product for that, like my HELOCs and stuff like this, for so if I'm gonna cost you an extra $200 a month, that I don't want that to ruin our friendship. I don't want you to every time you go write that check to the bank, be like, God damn it,
See,
Eric.
this is why
Like
this is the most genuine guy in the business today.
yeah, and I think that like just I genuinely yeah, I appreciate the loyalty, but I don't want you to be disdain every time you cut that check. You know what I mean? I love
I'll
Eric.
just raise
Like
rents by
two hundred
200. Try.
dollars? Like I know, just take me out for dinner. Like no, so that's the whole thing. Um,
So tell me this. Uh, just like a lot of people come and go in this business, especially on the realtor side, how is it that you continue to make money in up markets and down markets when it seems like as the economy turns, that actually makes a lot of loan officers exit? As a matter of fact, when the rates went to 5%, I personally know three loan officers that just said, yeah, I'm going to go bartend now, or oh, I'm going to like go into a whole different industry. How do you continue to make money?
yeah, well, being a psycho. Like I work around the clock. I mean, Freed called me like 8 p.m. I was laying in bed and I just answered the phone. I answered his questions. He's like, "You sound like you're like half asleep." I'm like, "Yeah, I can be." But like the business is 24/7, and if you're not willing to pick up the phone, I always say, listen, I'm not always working, but I am always on call, right?
Hmm.
Because you might like I had this one where a loan officer yelled at his client because I took them. Um, he'd been working with a client and one of my realtors called me and she said, hey, I'm listing this property. The buyer's agent can't get a hold of their loan officer to get a pre-approval for their client. It was
Hmm.
Sunday night and she goes, I really like their buyer and I like their offer, but we have a deadline tonight and I'm ready to accept an offer and we can't without a pre-approval letter. Can you get this done for me tonight? Of course. I took care of it, got him pre-approved, got him a better interest rate too.
Hmm.
And so he's like, "Oh, this is even better. This is even a better deal, right?" So he's super happy. The loan officer finds out on Monday that he was fired, right? And so he calls and he screams at the client. He goes, "I lost you because I didn't pick up the phone on a Sunday night." Yeah, because now had that been me, now like I understand he did a bunch of work, helped his client,
Hmm.
was had them like was working with them and all that, and felt betrayed because it's like Sunday night. That should be time for family. I get it, but at the
But that's
same,
what the business
that's
costs.
what the business costs.
At
And
the very least, say, hey, listen, I can't do it right now, but I'll call you back first thing Monday. At least kind
yeah,
of calm their nerves a little bit,
well, they
right?
would have lost the house if that was the case. But
Ah.
and here's the thing: had that been me, and I found out I got fired, the first thing I would have said is, "I'm so sorry. That's
Hmm.
my fault that I wasn't there for you when you needed me. You would have lost your house. That's my fault."
Hmm.
And so, yeah, you should go work with, Steve or whoever it is. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just making names up. These aren't real names.
Because they
So
do answer the phone.
yeah, and so had I failed my client and they had to go somewhere else, I would have just been saying sorry. I wasn't there for you when you needed me, and
Hmm.
go with them, and I hope everything goes great, right?
Hmm.
And so that's kind of a different mindset of like I'm here to serve, and
Hmm.
we deal with large deposits. I really care deeply about the responsibility I hold, which is
Hmm.
like we're dealing with earnest money. I've had $100,000, $200,000 earnest money deposits that
Wow.
if we miss a financing commitment date, they could lose that money. And I've seen like I've had to make phone calls. Hey, our commitment's due. We need this extension, even though it's not my job. It's the realtor's job and mass the attorney's job to make sure contract dates are being met and all that. But we do our best to make sure that we're on
Hmm.
top of that. And so, there's a lot of responsibility, and and whether like one of the reasons I got into this business is because, like I said, I'd lost $200,000 on a deal. I was under contract as a buyer, $140,000 deal, and the ARV was gonna be like 375, 350, 375. I only need like 60 grand. Foreclosure property, the bank allowed me to do a reno loan. The loan officer got my income wrong. Another loan officer was like, I could have done that, and he ended up getting me a house later. So I think about my time and I go, I can't be that for someone else. I can't lose somebody a ton of money because I got it wrong. And so
Hmm.
I dive deep into guidelines. I never quit. Like there's always, is there another way? I've I swear there have been loans where we were getting ready to deny it, and I called 40 different banks, called their account representative and just said, here's a scenario. Is there any product that you have that can solve this problem?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just a never say die attitude. Because like a lot of loan officers will go, I mean, I closed 97%. I can't let those three go. That 3% is going to haunt me. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So in a service industry, having good customer service is number one. But you must have a couple other tricks because when the economy gets super bad or if the rates go super high, nobody's really making money, there's low transaction volume, still you have to make a somehow. Still you have
Just
to
being
make a profit
efficient.
somehow.
Just being efficient. So
Hmm.
like I think that's my biggest strength is like we did 152 loans for 64 million last year as a team of three.
Hmm.
Uh, one originating loan officer and then two loan officer assistants. One's primarily on like emails, marketing, appointments. She like booked my calendar for this, and she does a lot of that stuff. And then I have another LOA who is getting licensed, and they'll eventually be doing things like pre-approvals and stuff. But they'll help me manage all income docs and all gathering documents
Hmm.
and prepping the file so that I can be efficient. And then I just have to work hard.
So
So
essentially it's zero overhead.
yeah, we run a lean ship for sure,
Hmm.
and so all these other like when I used to, I hate to say it because if they ever watch this, it's like I used to get disdain because I'd be sitting in my office when I was retail, and I'd look out at the office and I'd see people playing like Angry Birds on their phones and stuff, and I'm like, my clients are paying interest on their salaries right now, and it's not being used well, right?
Yeah.
And so I was very
Or at
big
least like
on
go after some new business, like do a couple of phone calls or
yeah.
something.
So I would look around, I'd be like, we have too much staff here.
Yeah.
I'm like the bad guy, like cut jobs, get rid of people. But like it's not that. It's just I just don't overhire in the first place. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? And pay well. I pay my team really, really well. And so we keep a lean ship, but I could pay 30% more than their market worth at a normal as opposed to paying 100% more for another person that's, not as
Hmm.
good. Rather pay good talent well and be highly effective, and that allows us to be more efficient. And then cutting out the like so when I worked at a retail place, the guy who brought me to my branch manager to get hired, that guy was getting paid on every loan I closed. So that's margin. Then my branch manager was making more than I was on my own loans,
Hmm.
and then that goes to my margin, which margin is going to rate. Um, and then on top of that, corporate wanted their profit. The company I work for takes a flat fee off of every deal, and they don't take a percentage. And so, what that means is like the overhead from corporate is low. There's no overrides from all these branch managers. I am a branch manager, and I don't have a regional manager. So we just cut out a lot of the fat, like just highly
Hmm.
efficient. And then we go to 150 different lenders. We leverage our volume. We have massive. We're like the I think first or second largest volume broker in the
Mm.
country. It's like
Wow.
it's between us, Nexa, Barrett, they're like top three at least.
Hmm.
And so we leverage that to get better deals with the banks.
Nice. On that note, if someone's interested in getting into lending or wants to be a loan officer, what are some of the things that you would look for in that person, whether to hire them or not? Or would you suggest that they develop it themselves first?
I think the most valuable skill of any, like whether you want to get into lending or anything, be a curious person.
Hmm.
Like the person that I'm looking for is curious. They don't like you'll talk to somebody, they'll find out the answer, they'll find out something, and they'll go, okay, I guess that is. I'm always going, why is that? Like
Hmm.
you always should want to understand the underlying thing because then it doesn't recur. Because if you just go, hey, that loan got denied because of this, and you just go, okay, understood, and you move on, then you don't find a way to prevent that from happening
Hmm.
again. So I go, well, why did that happen? Why did that get denied? And what was the underlying like guideline that caused that? And I try to understand the reasoning behind why they would write a policy like that. Why would they do that? Oh, because they're probably getting defaults because people were doing this, and so that was a high risk, and so they started like dialing back. Anyway, so I think being a curious person
Hmm.
is the most valuable trait.
Gotcha.
Like, don't just take something at face value. Try to find out. Try to want to know more.
Hmm. And answer the call at Sunday night if that's what it takes to get a client a loan.
Yeah, you can't, but you can't. Yeah, and you can't teach that, so you didn't ask to teach it. But yeah, and if someone wants to get into this business, I think it's a great business. I still think it's a great time to get into it.
Hmm.
Technology is getting better. It's making us way more efficient. You
Yeah,
don't have to know as much. Like Chat GPT gets things wrong. So if you're trying to get into lending, be really careful
you
about,
got to double check for sure.
yeah, like you always want to have the underlying, but I'll use ChatGPT to get like amortization schedules, like give somebody quick numbers.
Hmm.
So I'll use ChatGPT all the time, but when it comes to guidelines, there's some really great stuff like Chat UWM, United Wholesale Mortgage is one of our biggest lenders. Amazing Bank, they have their own ChatGPT
That's wild.
strictly for mortgages. Yeah.
Can
Uh,
anybody get access to it?
if you're a broker, yeah.
Interesting. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
For me, I would say the biggest thing that differentiates is giving a shit. Because whether you are on the lending side or on the consumer side, like officers that I worked with in the beginning that no longer work with, or maybe only did one loan, is they only took it so far, and after a certain point, it wasn't their job. Or if I had some whatever extraneous circumstance, you actually find a way around it versus they're like, oh, well, this is the wall. I'm not going to go past the wall.
Yeah.
And giving you shit is also something that I'm not sure if you can teach it, but it's definitely something that I think anybody can develop in themselves. Like, care a little bit more about your client, have a little bit more pride in your work.
Yeah, I say that we should be the quarterback of the team.
Hmm.
And so one of the things if we really want to talk about what grew me a lot is really just I made an effort early and often to be the quarterback for everything real estate.
Hmm.
I spend a ton of time going to real estate investor meetups. I get to learn from Andrew and Zach and the
Hmm.
Candor people and you and everybody. And when I go to all these meetups, I'm listening to people and I'm learning from really talented, smart people. And so like I learned a ton of real estate, and so I tell people, and I probably said it to you, it's like you don't have to just ask me about mortgages. If it's anything real estate related,
Hmm.
if I don't know the answer, I know someone who does,
Yeah. And
right?
that's what I like to go through. I believe it was on our very first loan. We almost got it to the finish line, but then something happened where like it was a problem with the seller, I forget, and you said, "Oh, why don't you like go back and revise your offer and like offer him like this concession or something else on the offer side?" And I'm like, "Wow, this guy's not even, a real estate agent, but he's offering me this kind of advice." It worked. We were able to pull off the deal, which then saved us the whole pie. And like, why would I go to any other loan officer besides you after that? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, and I have to be careful to stay in my lane too, because it's like on the one hand, you want to make sure like that like I know enough to get me in trouble, right?
Hmm.
So I do try to use that caveat, but what I really try to do is go like and to that end, I did recently just help somebody else close on a deal where I was like, dude, why don't you just offer some seller financing? Like ask if
Hmm.
they're willing to do it, just because the deal was about to die, and he did, and they accepted, and
Hmm.
he was able to save the deal, and he got a big portfolio that's really really good.
Nice.
But the reason that happens is because of the amount of volume I do.
You've
Give
probably seen it all.
I see so much more. Like if I
Hmm.
did 152 deals and then who knows how many I actually saw that never came to fruition,
Yeah.
offers we make, and I get deep in the relationships with my realtors to find out, hey, we do custom pre-approvals. So instead of just going, hey, this guy's good for 700 grand, best of luck to you, call me when you get a contract. What I do is every single time they go to make an offer, I review their file, send them a separate pre-approval for that offer.
Hmm.
And so every single offer my client makes, I'm aware of it. And
Yeah.
that means I have this massive database in my brain of like, this is what's going on in the marketplace at any given time. So I
Hmm.
can talk to you and go, hey, I've been seeing a lot of this lately. Patterns, pattern
Hmm.
recognition and stuff. So the more volume you see, the more access to data you
Yeah.
have, right? So
Absolutely.
because realtors might only do, a good realtor does 25, 30 deals a year. And so if
The average
I'm,
one does 7 deals a year. I don't
yeah,
even know how the hell you like feed your kids on that kind of.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Well, a lot of them are part-time. They have a full-time job and they do it on the side.
hmm.
And that doesn't mean that they're like there's some really great realtors that do it part-time. Like one of the things I just did and this like you can't like you said you can't teach it. I had a client who was doing a DSCR cash out refinance.
So
Yeah, let's
that's
pause
not
on that.
critical.
So one of the things that I had happened recently was we were running into issues where my buyer was buying an investment property on an almost $1 million property in Maine, in Bethel, Maine, and it was like a short-term rental, beautiful house, like basically new construction, 2023, and they were doing a cash out refinance in New York. we were having issues. We had to use the New York attorney. There were delays going on there. The bank got this clear to close. They're trying to get the docs package out. There were concerns about meeting our closing date, and the seller was telling us they weren't going to give us any extensions. They're like, they either can close or they're not going to close. We'll move back to the market and we'll kill this whole deal. We're like, it was crazy. It didn't make any sense because we were so close to the finish line. But he was putting his foot in this. Foot down saying, nope, no extensions, get it done or we don't get it. I literally flew to Brooklyn.
Wow.
Literally, I flew to Brooklyn, drove to the guy's house, met the notary, because if they sent that FedEx overnight, we don't know when it's going to get to Bethel, because Bethel's kind of in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, you can overnight it, it's going to get to Maine, but when is it actually going to get delivered? Is it going to get delivered in time to get the thing on record, to get the funding out? So
Because they gotta make it the guy's hands or his secretary. You know what I mean?
yeah, so like, it's on a a truck somewhere heading to Bethel, right? And then it's got to go out for delivery. So even if we overnight it, we don't know if we're going to get it the next day. So I flew to Brooklyn, drove to the guy's house, met the notary, grabbed the notarized documents, flew home, drove the 3-hour drive from Boston to Bethel,
Damn.
dropped off the documents, closed with the clients, and then they went on record that day. So we closed.
Now that's giving a shit for your clients.
It is.
So let's finish up with a couple rapid fire questions.
Sure.
So first I want to ask you, what is the biggest myth with mortgages that you won't see today that you want to dispel?
Well, I mean, certainly the 20% down thing is still out there.
Seriously. I mean, I think we talk about it at least once an episode.
Yeah.
You don't need that much money to buy a house.
Yeah, 5% down, owner occupant. You have to be willing to live there. So if you're willing to live in the property for a year, 5% down, plus closing costs, and you can have seller financing closing costs. There's down payment assistance programs out there. There's zero down if you're looking for single family. USDA is awesome, but obviously we're looking at investors. But there's some great single family opportunities for investors. You go use USDA down, zero down, go buy the property, do a bunch of sweat equity. You could either flip it, if you find the right opportunity, right? So.
What is one mistake that you see that it's the most common when people apply for mortgages?
That's a great question.
Or maybe 2 or 3 most common mistakes, if it's hard to pick one.
I mean, well, there's always like documents. There's memes all the time of like, my favorite is like this Yoda one. Bank statement. I need your bank statement, like all pages, legible and all that. And someone will just take a screenshot of their cell phone. Can't use it. Like we have to see all the transactions. And I tell people all the time, I don't care how much money you spend at Starbucks or whatever. I'm not reading. I don't have time to read people's bank statements. I'm just looking, how much money do you have? And I'm glancing through for large deposits real quick. If I don't see like a large deposit, meaning, I guess this would be a great mistake people make. So this is actually triggered on one. Like if you're getting a gift or if you're sitting on a bunch of cash, let's just say you don't like banks, don't blame you. You have a bunch of money in a safe at home or under the mattress money, right? And you just drop it in your bank account. That's going to kill your loan.
Yeah.
Like kill your loan.
Banks want to see where everything came from for the last 30, 60 days.
Yeah. So you should move money into a bank account at least 60 days before you really start. Now you can, like, I can do if we're doing DSCR loans, there's a lot more flexibility to them. Like I can do verification on demand, VODs. So you could deposit it, or some of the banks only require 30-day seasoning. So you can always wait 30 days and show me a new bank statement. So some of the non-QM products, we can get away with it, but the traditional products is always going to be 60 days. So it needs to be in your bank account ahead of time.
Gotcha. And finally, if you're looking to buy an investment property or just your own first home, do you put the wheels in motion for the loan first, or do you go out there, shop a deal, and then try to find a loan?
You should definitely try to get the financing like in order first, but it's one of those things where it's not that hard to get people pre-approved. So if you find a deal and you haven't booked the financing, it's not going to be a problem. We can make it happen, but you definitely want cart before the horse. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Talk to a loan officer, because you might find a deal that you don't realize you don't qualify for, because especially with self-employed people, because they're like, dude, I make so much money. And then I look at their tax return, I'm like, yeah, but you don't tell the government you do. And I'm not saying that they like don't report it on their taxes, but then you look at all their write-offs, and it's like Schedule C. I've seen $400,000 of income with negative net So they wrote off $400,000 in expenses.
And the bank lends on the tax
The
return,
net,
not on what
yeah.
you say.
Yeah, so I say to people, you can't tell Uncle Sam that you're broke and tell me that you're rich,
Hmm.
right? So pick one, right?
Yeah.
But we're also cheaper than Uncle Sam. He's gonna try to hit you every year. Uncle Sam sucks, right?
Yeah.
So we have non-QM products for that. Like bank statement loans are awesome. Like it's as simple as give me your last 12 months. I've got a guy who makes tons of money. Again, tax returns aren't as great as their actual real income because the government gives us all these tax breaks and then we get penalized on our mortgage application. It's not
Hmm.
like these people are running an illegal business or they're cheating the government. No, they're using their legal tax breaks that the government writes, but then it penalizes them on a mortgage. So we
Hmm.
have 12-month bank statement loans. Awesome product. You give me 12 months of your bank statements from your business. And if you run your business out of your personal account, we can take 12 months personal. And then we'll just do all of the monthly deposits and divide by two. Like it, we'll use a 50% expense factor. So if you make 1 million in deposits, like 1 million gross revenue,
Hmm.
and let's just say on your tax return it shows 100,000 net, it's a great year. Like you have a 90% expense, 100,000 net. We'd use 500,000 net just as a default, unless you have like a ton of employees or multiple business
Hmm.
locations. Then it gets, but 95% of businesses probably just get the default 50%. And if your CPA gives us a letter that says he makes this much money, we use that too. We
Hmm.
have a CPA letter one. So if you're, because their license is on the line. So if
Yeah.
they're willing to put their license on the line and go, here's his profit and loss. He made this much revenue, this much expenses, this was his net. We will just use that as gospel.
That sounds like a lot better than having to have 2 years worth of income for a
Yeah.
lot of people that think, oh, I need to be in business for 2 years before that qualifies me for a mortgage.
We do have 1 year self-employment. That
Very
is an
cool.
option. So if you've only been self-employed for a year, but those have larger down payments. All these non-QM products,
Hmm.
20%. Does it exist? So this is where people get it wrong. Mortgage insurance is available on like QM loans, like Fannie, Freddie, FHA, and all that. So that protects the bank against loss. On these non-QM, they're just private investors. It's their capital, their investors' capital. There's
Hmm.
no insurance on this. If you default, nobody's coming to save them, right?
Hmm.
So they have to have higher risk tolerance. So they're going to have much higher interest rates at 20% down payment, and they won't have five. They will have 10% options, but you'll go from like 7% interest to nine.
Wow.
Like huge jumps.
Hmm.
So I always tell people I would try not to do a non-QM loan unless you have
Yeah,
20%.
gotcha. And then final rapid fire question. This one might get a little spicy. 50-year mortgages. What do you
I
think?
like it.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
A
So
lot of controversial opinions. A lot of people say that you actually end up paying way more in interest than a 30, but your payment won't necessarily go down very
yeah,
much.
have you ever done an interest-only investor loan? Same idea. The amortization
Mm.
schedule's pretty bad on an interest-only loan. It's zero. Like
Yeah.
you're paying zero principal. So we have 40-year IOs. Nobody
Hmm.
complains about those. 10-year interest-only, 30-year fixed amortization schedule. So the thing about a 50 is it's just a tool in your toolbox.
Hmm.
Like you just
But will it
because
save the economy or the housing market like everybody's hoping it would?
I think it's going to be bad for affordability. I think
Mm.
because the reality is most people are payment shoppers, unfortunately. I really wish people would be more, and I try to educate my clients and stuff like that, but can only do so much. Most people would just go, I make this much a month. I'm going to set aside this much to my mortgage, and whatever that gets me, it gets me. And
Hmm.
so when you create a 50-year mortgage, that shrinks your amortization, like shrinks your payment on that because you're paying it over 50 years instead of 30. So that gives you an extra 20 years to spread that payment out,
So you can
which
buy more house
so you can buy
essentially.
more house. But what ends up happening is that creates forced competition, and then more people are offering bidding wars, and that
Hmm.
drives prices up. And so now with more competition, you end up. I think it's going to backfire, but I don't necessarily think that they don't know that already. You
Mm.
know what I mean?
Because they learned that lesson when they took the rates from 2% to 5%. That took out the bidding wars, but it also took out a lot of people from transaction volume.
Yeah.
And now the economy's kind of tanked in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, but they didn't move it from 2 to 5 out of tactics. It was 2 was literally just that was chaos COVID.
Hmm.
But I mean, a normalized rate should be in the 4 to 5% should be pretty normal mortgage rates.
Mm.
8 should always be seen as bad. 3 should be seen as, oh my God, what's going on? Probably bad jobs. Like we're probably in a depression. Like and
So you actually don't want to see them in the threes again.
no, like rates are very inverse to the stock market and jobs market. Like think about it this way: most mortgage bonds are bought by who? Retirees, safe money. It's a safe bet. It's not going to make you a lot of money. If the stock market's going gangbusters, what are you going to do? You're going to put your money in stocks. So people take their money out of risky stocks when the stock market's not doing well. So if we're in a recession or depression, that means the stock market's going bad. People are like, well, I'm not putting my money there. I'm going to put it in safe bonds, treasury bonds, mortgage bonds. And that's why you'll often hear that that mortgage bonds are tied to the treasury
10-year.
because they're kind of competing for the same dollars. Retirees, things like that. So so when interest rates are really low, it usually signals a bad economy. Jobs are bad. Inflation, things. Well, inflation actually no, that's incorrect. When inflation is up, now you have to charge more money in interest to make your investors enough money to cover inflation. So if inflation's 7% year over year, you're not going to take a 3% mortgage because you're going to lose money every month on your note, right? So inflation's bad for mortgages, but bad jobs reports great for mortgage rates. Low rates signals bad things.
Gotcha. This has been very educational.
Yeah.
Cool.
Eric, so you've built quite the company over the years. You've also built, a little bit of a real estate portfolio yourself, right? So for people trying to build a business or building a portfolio, do you have any book recommendations for them?
I'd stick to very simple Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's
Okay.
a classic for a reason.
Totally.
It stands up to time.
It does.
Yeah.
It does, right? Any other ones that had a true impact on your journey?
The Millionaire Real Estate Investor was also a classic that was really good. It really taught me how to not just look for a deal, but also understand market areas and neighborhoods and growth trends and school districts and things like that. So Millionaire Real Estate Investor was really good.
And then for mindset, and I mean this is the case for me. I'm sure it's pretty the case for you. Is I know you're into Tony Robbins too. Like, did that have an effect on your growth? And tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Tony Robbins, I got lucky enough to go to a real estate event that had him.
Okay.
But I've also followed his videos and watched a lot of his stuff. Mindset's huge, but I'm not a huge Tony Robbins guy. I got lucky enough to see him once in person because of a mortgage event. So I set you up on that one.
Oh man, I love Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
You didn't lead him like whatever. I forgot.
I'd be in better shape.
You would.
Although I did sign up for his Life Force thing. Try it.
So I was trying to give our audience real practical advice. So if you could rewind back to your childhood self, right? Give that childhood self, that child Eric, 3 pieces of advice to be the successful man you are today.
I mean, I'd give the advice to do what I did to start. The 4-unit start was awesome, and I always tell people all the time, get the biggest FHA you can qualify for because the second one's the hardest.
Okay.
The first one is the easiest, and I sometimes see someone buy like a condo first, like a 150 or 200K condo. Problem is the next property, now you're not going to be able to get that $800,000 4-unit or whatever. So go big the first time because the second one's going to be harder.
Okay.
So that's one.
Go big, number one.
Go big, number one. And that'll be a great foundation. Another piece of advice, I would just say credit. Credit is so important, and age of account is really important. I think every 18-year-old should open 2 quality credit cards. Make sure they're on auto pay. Make sure you only use them for gas and groceries. Just don't run up the bill. But if you open 2 credit cards at 18 and just keep them forever, literally forever, you'll have amazing credit. And never miss a credit card or mortgage payment by 30 days. You can be 5 days late. You can be 29 days late. Don't ever be 30 days late.
What about the power of being an authorized user? Tell our audience a bit about that.
Yeah, authorized user is an awesome thing. So especially for you parents out there who have great credit, you want to set your kid up for success, you can have them as an authorized user. Don't even give them a card. Like, just give them access to and that instantly boosts their age of account 20 years, 30 years. You know what I mean? And so age of account is a really important metric for credit scores.
Okay. So these are really practical advice. Now give this last piece of advice. Give yourself a piece of advice when it comes to mindset now.
Yeah, I mean, what you said earlier, essentially, you don't get equity without problems. You
Mm.
be willing to work hard. It's really that simple. You do have to have, like, you have to put your brains behind stuff. You can't just work extra hard. But yeah, look for problems because problems equal money because people don't want to deal with problems. You solve problems, you will make money.
And that's exactly what they did with the mortgage company. You saw a problem. There was no investor-focused lenders out there. They didn't know what the hell they were doing.
Hmm.
You thought you could solve that problem, and you create a flourishing business, right?
Yeah.
So, Eric, I had a fantastic time learning more about you, and so did our audience. For people who want to learn more about you and potentially connect and learn about some amazing loan products that you have, I personally use them myself. Where can they learn more about you?
Yeah, you can find me all on Facebook. I'm all over social media. Facebook's my primary that I use, Eric Katsikas, but Eric Knows Loans has all my stuff. So ericknowsloans.com, ERICKNOWSLOANS.com.
It's actually Eric Katsikas.
That's the correct name. That's the correct spelling. Yeah.
Just wanted to clarify. I like that.
Yeah.
So just wanted to thank Eric for coming on the Freedom Real Estate Podcast. If you like this content, check us out next week for our next episode. Catch you later.